Do you ever feel like you're running a race you didn't sign up for? Like no matter how many goals you tick off or milestones you achieve, there's still this hollow, unshakable feeling at the end of the day. I've been there too. On the surface, my life seemed perfect. The routines, the drive, even the so-called success that others admired. But deep down, I felt lost, like I was climbing the wrong mountain. Then a mentor, who had seen my struggles day after day, sat me down for a heartfelt conversation. They suggested I turn to the Bhagavad Gita. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect, but what I found wasn't just philosophy. It was a timeless guide to understanding life, purpose, and myself. One verse in particular struck me, chapter 6, verse 7. He who is disciplined in mind and free from attachment, who neither rejoices in pleasure nor despairs in pain, is truly wise. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. The problem wasn't the race itself, it was the way I was running it, restless, distracted, and disconnected from what really mattered. So, I decided to shift. I began implementing 5 habits inspired by the teachings of the Gita. These weren't grand or flashy changes, they were grounded, intentional practices. And within just 1 week, I experienced a clarity and peace that had eluded me for years. These habits aren't quick fixes or trendy hacks. They're practical steps that help me reconnect with myself, my purpose, and the present moment. At first, they weren't easy. They required discipline, reflection, and trust in the process. But what they gave me in return was priceless. A calmer mind, a focused heart, and a sense of purpose in every action. Let me share these 5 habits with you, not as a checklist, but as tools to help you align your life with something deeper and more meaningful. For most of my life, mornings felt like chaos. My alarm would go off and I'd snooze it again and again, until I had just enough time to scramble out of bed and rush into my day. But the Gita, in chapter 3, verse 19, teaches us the value of intentional action. As Krishna says, an individual who performs their duty with a disciplined mind, without attachment, achieves the highest good. Waking up early wasn't just about getting up earlier. It was about reclaiming my mornings as sacred time for myself. The first week was tough. My bed called to me like an old friend, and I questioned why I was even doing this. But by the 3rd day, I noticed something. The stillness of the early morning gave me clarity. The world felt peaceful, like a clean slate waiting to be written on. I'd start with a few minutes of stretching or meditation, followed by journaling or reading something inspiring. This quiet, intentional time set the tone for my entire day. One morning I sat on my balcony with my morning coffee and watched the sunrise. The air was crisp, the world was still, and in that moment I felt deeply grateful. It was such a simple act, but it reminded me of something profound. Life is full of beauty if we take the time to notice it. Waking up early isn't about becoming a morning person. It's about creating space for yourself to breathe, reflect, and prepare, mentally and emotionally, for the day ahead. Reclaiming my mornings became the foundation for all the other habits. It was the first step to creating structure and meaning in my day. As someone who has always been active, I thought I had this one figured out, but somewhere along the way exercise became a chore. I'd skip sessions, make excuses, and tell myself, I'll start tomorrow. Sound familiar? Chapter 6, verse 6 of the Gita teaches us that discipline is the foundation of growth. Krishna says, for one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain the greatest enemy. So I decided to stop overthinking it. I committed to showing up even on the days I didn't want to. The first few sessions were tough. My body ached, and my mind kept trying to find a way out. But by day 4, something shifted. Exercise became a release. The harder I trained it, the less stressed I felt. I realized I wasn't just working out my body. I was working out my frustrations, my doubts, and my fears. Before, I would come home with all of this emotional baggage, and my poor family would unintentionally be on the end of my frustrations, stress, and negativity, as I had nowhere else to release this. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, I decided to push myself a little harder during my run, and I will never forget. The sunset painted the sky in mesmerizing pinks and purples. By the end, I felt lighter, not just physically, but mentally. Exercise became my way of showing up for myself. I used this affirmation and never looked back. I matter and my well-being is worth the effort. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by your own thoughts, like they're spinning in a loop and you can't make sense of them? The more I try and think about solutions to my problems, the problems get worse, and I felt even more stuck than when I started. That was me until I discovered the power of journaling, chapter 6, verse 5. The Gita encourages self-study, or svadhyaya, as a path to understanding. The self is the friend of the self, but it can also be the enemy. Lift yourself by yourself. Do not let yourself fall. Every night I'd sit down with a notebook and simply write. I asked myself 3 questions. What went well today? What challenged me? What can I do differently tomorrow? At first, my entries were short and hesitant, but over time they became more honest, more revealing. One night, I wrote, I feel stuck. By the end of the page, I realized I wasn't stuck. I was scared. That single realization gave me the courage to take action the next day. Journaling became my mirror, a way to see myself clearly, to confront my fears, and to celebrate my growth. Journaling also showed me patterns I hadn't noticed before. So much of my stress came from the things I couldn't control, my boss's opinions, the weather, or if I was doing enough to make my family proud. This practice gave me clarity, reminding me to focus on what I could control, my actions, my responses, and my growth. I could be purposeful and proactively anticipating rather than emotionally reacting. How often do we eat without thinking? Rushing through meals, scrolling on our phones, barely tasting what's in front of us. We're so busy rushing from one task to the next task that we forget that we need energy to perform. If we are not fueled correctly, how can we perform our duty to the best of our ability? In chapter 17, verse 7. The Gita teaches us to approach food as prasad, a sacred offering, and to embrace ahimsa, non-violence, in how we nourish ourselves. The food that is pure, increase vitality, strength, and satisfaction, is dear to those in the mode of goodness. So I made a simple change. No screens, no distractions. Just me and my meal. I focused on the colors, the textures, the flavors. One night I savored a bowl of my favorite curry. For the first time I noticed the subtle spices, the warmth spreading through my body, the vibrant colors, the textures, and the way the flavors danced on my tongue. It was a moment of gratitude, a reminder that even the simplest acts can be profound. Mindful eating isn't about following a diet or counting calories. This act is about acknowledging the importance of food and giving it the respect it needs and deserves, so we can receive the sustenance in the highest and most pure form to fuel our efforts. When was the last time you gave something your full attention? This life has certainly become more competitive and demanding, with more challenges and responsibilities that hold us accountable around the clock. Our minds are restless by nature, and the Gita acknowledges this in chapter 6, verse 34. The mind is restless, turbulent, and powerful. Controlling it is as difficult as controlling the wind, but it can be achieved through practice and detachment. I started small. No phones after 8 p.m. Instead, I'd read, reflect, or simply sit in silence. One night, I turned off my phone, lit a candle, and sat on the grass outside. For the first time in years, I felt truly present. The grass beneath my hands, the fresh air, the faint smell of rain, it all felt alive. In that moment, I realized the power of stillness. By limiting distractions, I could reconnect with myself my surroundings, and the present moment. Limiting distractions isn't about cutting out technology completely. It's about creating intentional moments of stillness, spaces where you can hear your own thoughts and reconnect with what truly matters, so you can cope without scrolling into the next dopamine-fueled facade of false reality. These 5 habits aren't just tasks to tick off a list. They're rooted in wisdom that's as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us that true transformation isn't about chasing more. It's about realigning your actions with purpose, your thoughts with clarity, and your heart with peace, as Krishna says in chapter 2, verse 47. You have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. This verse reminded me that the journey matters far more than the destination. It's about showing up every day, not for some distant reward, but for the person you become in the process. So, here's my challenge to you. Start small. Pick just one habit from these 5. Commit to it, not with perfection, but with intention. Watch as these small shifts ripple through your life, bringing clarity to your chaos, calm to your mind, and meaning to your actions. Stop for a second and imagine waking up 1 week from now, not just feeling like you're running a race, but like you're finally on the right track. These habits help me rediscover myself, and I believe they can do the same for you. If this message resonated, I encourage you to explore more lessons of the Bhagavad Gita. They're not just timeless teachings, they're practical applications of life. Now, if you found this video helpful, check out 5 proven ways to conquer your emotions for even deeper insights. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Let's keep growing, learning, and becoming the people we're meant to be. One habit, one day, one step at a time. For all the viewers who stayed till the very end, drop me a comment. I matter, and my well-being is worth the effort. Stay curious, stay intentional, and always remember your transformation begins with you.